Hi everyone, this is Dave from Wilde Reads. Welcome back to another video and welcome to the April wrap-up. I had to think then, because now we're in May, I'm thinking what was last month? Of course it was April. I was going to film this outside because it is a beautifully bright day today, but I went out there and I got set up and it wasn't that warm. So I've headed back off indoors and I'm in a sunny little nook in the dining room. I read 7 books last month and I'm going to tell you about them. So I had a much better reading month last month than the month before. Read 7 books, a couple of them quite thin. So let's get straight on with the books. Isn't it lovely to see the sun out? We had a really hot weekend back in April and we thought, oh, here we go, here comes spring, here comes summer. But since that happened, the weather has been crap. It's been absolutely awful. The other day was like winter had turned up again. It was freezing cold, it was wet, it was windy, it was horrible, but hopefully we've seen the last of the bad weather now and it is a lovely bright sunny day out there. But the temperatures haven't increased all that much yet, so we're just waiting for that and then we can all strip off and go and run about the garden in our trunks. Maybe not. Anyway, so what did I read last month? Let's get straight on with the book. So the first book I read in the month was a poetry collection. This is Inside the Wave from Helen Dunmore. This won the Costa Prize this year. I think it won the poetry category and the overall Costa category as well. Apologies about this lighting. It can't quite decide whether it wants to go dark or light, but the window's here. So we'll have to see if we can correct that in the edit. Okay, so Inside the Wave, Helen Dunmore. I liked it, wouldn't say I loved it. I'm quite old-fashioned where poetry is concerned. I'm used to poetry having a rhyming structure to it. I don't know what this type of poetry is called. I don't think it's free verse. It could well be free verse. I really need to brush up on... I really want to get into poetry and I really want to read more of it, but I feel like I need to understand more about it first. So I've started watching the videos from Jen Campbell. She's made some brilliant videos and there's a couple of other channels as well that mention poetry in their videos. So yeah, so I'm going to search deeper for the Jen Campbell poetry playlist because I really want to read more of it. I gave this one 3 stars. It was good. It was good. I just didn't love it. So that's Inside the Wave from Helen Dunmore. The next book I read really did like. This is quite an old book. This is Scribbles in the Margin by Daniel Gray and the subtitle is 50 Eternal Delights of Books. Now I love books and books about reading and the joy of reading. It's something that we all like to read about books, don't we? We all like to read books about books. Well, I do anyway. I know a few other people do as well. So this is, as it says, 50 Eternal Delights of Books, and they're like a series of just sketches, really. So most of them are only 2 or 3 pages long, but they cover topics such as finding handwritten dedications in old books, reading in bed, beginning a new book, reading in a tent, hiding yet more book purchases from partners, reading to a child, when a novel makes you snivel, the smell of books, old and new books, rereading an old favourite, giving a book as a present. I can't pick out a particular favourite one of mine. I really did enjoy it and I think I'm going to come back to this and reread it again and again because it's just nice to dip into every now and again and just remind ourselves why we do love books so much. So that was the second one I read. The next one I read is the brilliant, I love this book. This is The Wisdom of Sally Redshoes, which is the new book out from Ruth Hogan. Ruth Hogan obviously wrote Keeper of Lost Things as well. If I know how to do this, I made a review video about this and I shall, if I know how to do this YouTube card thing, I shall put a card either here or here. If I can't do that, then I'll link my review video for this in the description box below. But this is The Wisdom of Sally Redshoes. It's about a woman called Marcia who 12 years ago suffered a tragic event in her life, and she spent the last 12 years recovering or just trying to live with this all-consuming grief. As Keeper of Lost Things was, it's full of wonderful, there's this wonderful collection of brilliantly, charmingly eccentric characters, which is quickly becoming the Ruth Hogan trademark. But this was a 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it, and I'm lucky enough to be going to the launch book. This book, as I'm filming this book is out today in your shops. Go buy it, go buy it. And I'm lucky enough to be going to the launch party of this book tonight in Bedford. The next one I read is a book that's out this month. This comes out on, I think this is out on the 17th of May. I did feature it on one of my 6 books. This is Darling by Rachel Edwards. Really enjoyed this book as well. It's got a brilliant, there's a brilliant plot, and this is about really racism in Britain, especially after the whole Brexit thing. And I don't know about you, but I am fed up. I'm fed up with it now. I'm fed up with hearing about Brexit. Every time you turn on a television, every time you turn on a radio, look, I get it. I know it's a really important subject, and it's been really divisive in this country. It really has. I know for people watching this in America, I know Donald Trump has been quite divisive, and there's been the people that have come down on the side of Trump, and those obviously that haven't. But Brexit in this country has been really divisive. So the people that wanted Brexit are called the Brexiteers, and then the people that, I know I'm going off on a tangent here, and the people that didn't want Brexit and wanted to remain in the European Union are called Remainers, sometimes unfairly called Ramonas. Rachel Edwards is a young black British author, and she was subjected to racial abuse the morning after the Brexit vote in this country, which is obviously disgusting, but it did give her the impetus to write this book. And this book it's about race, and it's about division. I shall read you the blurb. So it says, Lola doesn't want a new stepmother, especially not one who has come out of nowhere and has only been with her dad for 3 months. And she's not racist or anything, but since when did her dad fancy black women anyway? Darling doesn't want a new stepdaughter, especially not one as spiteful and as spoilt as Lola. She does want Lola's dad though, and he wants her, so that's that. Darling and Lola will just have to get used to each other, unless Lola can find a way to get rid of Darling. So I really enjoyed this. It took me a couple of chapters to get into the author's style, but there are quite a few standout moments in this book, as well as some absolutely fantastic recipes for Caribbean cooking that sound absolutely delicious. If you get round to reading this, which I heartily recommend that you do, check out the recipe for Saturday soup. It's like this Caribbean spicy soup. Oh my God, it sounds brilliant. And it's something that I might even try myself. So that was Darling by Rachel Edwards, and I'm sure it's out on the 17th of May. I've got the press release upstairs on the desk, but I'm sure it's the 17th of May. So that's Darling, Rachel Edwards, and it's published by Fourth Estate. The next book I read in April was Almost Love by Louise O'Neill. This came out this year. This is published by River Run. I really enjoyed it. It's a really good book. When Sarah falls for Matthew, she falls hard. So it doesn't matter that he's 20 years older, that he only sees her in secret, that slowly but surely she's sacrificing everything else in her life to be with him. This is about a young woman called Sarah who falls for, she's already seeing someone, she's already got a boyfriend, and she falls for this guy, this property magnate called Matthew. And he's a horrible character. The way he treats women is terrible. He's very sexist, he's very misogynistic. It's almost like she's addicted to him, and she's addicted to seeing, getting a text from him after she texts him a week or so before and he hasn't responded, and then she spends that whole week just waiting for this text to turn up from this Matthew. It's good. I really did enjoy it. I can't remember what I gave it now. I think I gave it a 4. I think I gave this one a 4. So it didn't quite have, and I put on Goodreads, it didn't quite have enough for me to give it a 5. I found, at times, the character of Sarah quite frustrating, because you just want her to wake up to this guy who's treating her appallingly, and you just want to say to her, look, you know, you've got a great boyfriend as it is, do not chuck everything away. And she's a teacher as well, and it starts affecting her job, it starts affecting her family, where she's just so wrapped up in this guy. But yeah, good book, Almost Love, Louise O'Neill, published by River Run. And the next book I read in April was, I read this in paperback. This is Helen Callahan's Dear Amy, which has been out a couple of years now. And I wanted to read this before moving on to Helen Callahan's new book, which is upstairs on the shelf, and the title of it escapes me. It'll come to me. I'll put it in, I'll put a ticker along here with the title. I read this in paperback, but I've also got it in hardback as well. And I can't find the paperback. But yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. Helen Callahan, this was her debut book. In her guise as Dear Amy, agony aunt for a local newspaper, Margot Lewis has dealt with all sorts of letters, but never one like this. Dear Amy, I've been kidnapped by a strange man. I don't know where I am. Please help me. Bethan Avery. This must be a cruel hoax, because Bethan Avery has been missing for nearly 2 decades. But as the present-day search intensifies for another missing schoolgirl, Margot is unnerved enough to take the letter to the police, hoping they will dismiss it as a sick joke. Instead, they let Margot in on a little secret, one that confirms her darkest fears and tangles her up in the search for the sender, which could save one girl's life and cost Margot her own. So this was a really twisty... I'm not going to say anything more about this book, because if I say anything more about it, you especially with thrillers, you tend to give too much of the plot away, which I don't want to do, because I know how frustrating that is when you go to watch a thriller, when you go to read a thriller, and someone's reviewed it and given away some points, or they've heavily hinted at some pointers that will spoil the plot. But yeah, so that's Helen Callahan, Dear Amy, published by Michael Joseph, come out a couple of years ago. It's really good. I really liked it. And the last book that I read in April was James Smythe, I Still Dream. I've spoken about this cover before, but it is gorgeous. And when it's been on the shelf now, because I've obviously read it, and you've got this lovely spine, almost makes you want to do rainbow shells, which I will never do. Yeah, so it's a beautifully printed book. For about the first 2/3 of this book, I was thinking, wow, this is going to be a 5-star. This is going to be one of my books of the year. It tailed off a little bit for me in the end. It's a really good book. I really did enjoy it. The premise is brilliant. It's about a girl called Laura Bow, and she's 17 when we first meet her. She's invented a rudimentary artificial intelligence. Now, this story starts in 1997 when we first meet Laura, and she's first invented this intelligence. So think what we have today. We have Cortana, Siri, Google Home, or Google Assistant. What's the other one? Alexa. So she's invented one of these. It doesn't speak in the beginning because it's 1997 and the technology hasn't... The sun's gone in now, look. Yeah, but it's 1997 in the beginning, so the technology hasn't evolved. And she's called her artificial intelligence Organon. And each part of the book, each new chapter of the book jumps another 10 years. So then we find ourselves in 2007 where the technology has evolved even more. Then we're in 2017, almost to our present day. Then it jumps to 2027, 2037, 2040, and so on. And so you can see by the end of the book, Laura is an elderly woman, but the world has moved on, and we've got all this wonderful technology by the end of the book. But it did tail off a little bit. As each new chapter starts, there's a different narrator, and it isn't immediately obvious who is narrating each chapter until, I mean, you know, give it 3 or 4 pages and it then becomes clear. But you get to the end of one part and you're waiting for the narrator to just carry on with the next part, but then it's someone else talking, which took a little bit of getting used to, and I don't think, for me personally, it just spoiled the flow of the book a little bit. but it's still a very, very enjoyable read if you like technology, if you're into that sort of thing. And James Smythe's writing is very good. It's very fluid. So I'm definitely going to check out some more books from James Smythe. He's written one called The Machine, which seems a really interesting read as well. So that was James Smythe, I Still Dream, published by Borough Press, and this is available. And this is available now. Okay, that was it. That was my wrap up for the month of April. Sorry if this lighting's been a bit bad today. I think the sun, we've got some trees overgrown here, so the sun might be a bit dapperly. But anyway, that was my wrap up for the month of April. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time for another BookTube video. Until then, take care. Bye bye.